Hello, everybody. This is Mac Audina. Mackins Audina is my name, and this is 11 kilometers per second. This is the channel where in which I speak to myself and those of you who can relate about what it takes to break from the things that hold you back and soar into the heavens, shoot for the moon and be amongst the stars. 11 kilometers per second is the speed at which something must move in order to escape Earth's gravity, and it is a metaphor for the things that hold you back and it keeps you from soaring. Okay, so what's going on? Hopefully, if you are listening to this in the beginning of your day, then this is a great day for it to be a good day. So make it one. It is your choice. Perspectives is real. Perspectives are real. Have a good perspective and you'll have a good life. And if it's the end of the day, I hope it was a good one. But you know what? The sun will come out tomorrow. Okay, so today, what I'm going to be talking about is the difference between a simp and a good man. Because first and foremost, coming together as a unit, I've been making videos about, what it takes to be a good man, what it takes to partner up. A lot of us, at my age, again, I'm talking to myself. And so at my age, you probably, have a wife, somebody who you're serious about. I'm at the stage where, there are many folks who have gone through situations and have gotten divorces and things of that nature because, you start off young and things change and people change and we don't know exactly how to make things work, or if they are to work. Maybe, the choices that we made earlier on were not the choices that should have been made, but, people change and you can change. And if the relationship is something that you want to continue, because, what we're talking about is an organization. You come together, you raise kids that are going to continue the legacy, that are going to be the next generation. And so you're also in here to build wealth. And so you're also intending to build generational wealth. And so I've been talking about, things that it takes to be a good man, to be the man that we want to be. Because ultimately, like I said in the previous video, which is going to be linked at the end of this, is that it's going to take for our men to step up in order to take us to the next level as a group, as a race, the black race. Our men are going to have to step up. They, and by they, I mean the powers that be. I mean racism. I mean, just happenstance. I am not the type of person who necessarily gives as much weight to racism as some people do. It's not to say that I don't think that it has a lot of weight. It is heavy. History is heavy. I just feel like, I don't want to say white people because I don't know that, for me, giving them that much power is just giving them way too much credit. I think history happened to be how history is. And for me to say that white people were able to do this or that is to give them the kind of genius level Machiavellian 48 laws of power shit that I don't really think they have. No one is really any different. We're all human beings trying to figure shit out. But there are some happenstance type stuff that happened in history that happened to give them their advantage. Jared Diamond of Germs Gun. He wrote the book called Germs, Guns, and Steel, or is it Germs, Guns, and Steel? Yeah, Germs, Guns, and Steel. He talks about how there are different things that happen throughout history, throughout geography, throughout the different germs and different things that just happenstance. This is one version. If you believe in, different types of universes, this is one version of the universe that you happen to be in, and where in which the things align such that the white people have got to be in power. But I don't want to go into, this is not what this is about, but so I don't want to go into that. If you're interested in Jared Diamond's theory, which I subscribe to, then quick Google, Wikipedia, give you some information on that. And that's my belief. I don't think they're that big. And so if they're not that big, as far as to us to go and do something about it. And I believe that us as black men, we're the ones that's going to step up and make that happen. I think there was a systematic, unintentional, or at the very least, not unintentional. That's not the correct word. Um, uh, Without the full knowledge of what impact it would have. I think, more than anything, it's probably just the fear of the physical fear, right? Like back in those days, like physical threat was the biggest thing. Nobody was thinking, okay, mentally. Well, they were. I mean, they didn't allow us to read, but I don't even think they were thinking about that. Like if you read, I think ultimately they didn't want us to gain power, right? Vested power wants to maintain power. And so there was a physical threat from a black man, and so they had to make sure that they really held us down. And so it's time for us to re-rise. And so how do we do this? It is not in a matter of taking up arms anymore. Like violence, power through violence, first and foremost, has never been the real way that we operate as human beings. We're not the strongest of animals. Our strength is in our brains. And so it's always been that the person, this is why you have, like, you can go to any hood. Like a lot of times the dudes that are running this shit are not the biggest dudes. They got big dudes fighting. They got muscle, but you got like little short dudes who have like the will, the tenacity, the belief that they are, that guy. And so it's always been the brain. And so I say that to say that, this is not about us like fighting. It's about us using our brains. And so that starts from within first. Do you believe that you're that guy? How do you believe that you're that guy? And then, to our communities. Long story long, let's get to the reason I wanted to make that point known is because I feel like there is a danger of me seeming, because this is supposed to be about men, right? And there is a danger of me seeming to just be, just putting our men down, and talking about how much we need to learn from our women. Our women are doing well, and I don't want it to seem as if I am, I'm catering, or somebody actually wrote in the comment of that video, of one of the videos that I wrote, basically, are you pandering? I was like, she said, I don't think you're pandering, but stop making it seem like, stop going with the narrative that black men are not doing as well as black women. Okay, first and foremost, we're not. Like, just do a Google. And denial is never going to get us to where we need to be. And sitting here being in denial means that you're not going to look for the solution to the problem. So number one. Number two is knowing is half the battle, like they say in G.I. Joe. First have to, on the road to recovery, you first have to acknowledge that there is a problem. Otherwise, you're not going to try to address the problem. So let's just acknowledge that is there, and this is not a us versus them. This is we are in this together. In those videos, I talk about how the women need to be patient and understand that we're in the same fight, but we need to do the same thing, and therefore let's learn from each other. So that's number one. But I wanted to address this point because there is also this debate about guys who are simping, right? Like just sitting there, like like these women have reactions on both sides, right? There's these passport boys, I keep mentioning them, these guys who are like women, I don't know, whatever. I don't. The manosphere is what it is, and like the Andrew Tate characters, and then you have the women on the other side, just like doing all this other stuff on the other side, and so, and those guys in the manosphere talk about like people who are simping. So I wanted to give my take on the difference between a simp and a good man, and listen, this is me, as with any of these videos, this is me coming off the top of my head and giving you my perspective. I would love to hear if you have some more ideas of what the difference is. If you disagree, I'd love to hear it, but like add your own to it. So I have 7 things that make you a simp. Like and I want to say before I go into the seven things, one of the reasons why I have some level of comfort in my being honest. I always think about myself as an honest person, anyways, and so I think being honest is one of the ways that you practice being invulnerable. Meaning, this is the whole thing with the Eminem, where I put out all this shit, so you can't really use it against me. Charlemagne talks about that as well. And so, listen, if I'm comfortable with it, you can talk about it all day long. It doesn't actually impact me. And so, if you're sitting there trying to hide like this painful thing, and somebody can sense it, that's when you're vulnerable. But if I have no vulnerabilities, you can't come at me. But one of the other reasons why I can be so honest about some of my feelings when it comes to my wife is because I know that I'm not a simp. I know that she completely and fully loves me, and as a result, I don't have to feel any type of way. I can be honest because I'm like, I know on multiple different fronts that I am that guy. And so that may not be the case for a lot of folk. And so if you have some doubts about those sorts of situations, you may not necessarily be as willing to be like, all right, well, I got to, I've got to, I've got to acknowledge my shortcomings in certain places. Okay, so I just want to give that prelude so that you guys can understand how how I'm able to acknowledge that, and so acknowledge in my shortcomings, and that's absolutely necessary, as I said, for you to grow. Right? You can't grow. You can't heal what is concealed. There's what is it? You can't heal what is not revealed. Whatever that term is, that it's true. It's just not. All right. So in any case, I have seven. I'm going to be looking at the screen for those seven so that I can remember and I don't forget everything that I was thinking about. Okay, so let's start. The first. All right, a simp is a person who allows a woman to speak disrespectfully to and about him in public. Okay, disrespectful runs a number of different gambits. It's not just like the words that are used, but the way in which it is used, right? Like a woman that you're with should recognize your need to appear, whether or not it's true, appear strong, appear like that stuff is like you're not the one who is like just being bossed around. Appear as a man, right? Like you got some level of control. If that woman understands that, even if she knows she's help, because this is what like your queen is your most powerful piece on the chessboard. Even if that woman is like, they talk about Reagan and how Nancy was like they're helping out. I'm pretty sure, like, and they also say, behind every strong man is a strong woman or something like that. I don't remember exactly something. So even if they're doing that, they know that they're going to allow you to look strong in public. And if you got a woman who's not doing that, then you're in danger of being or seeming like a simp. Number two, a simp readily accepts disrespect, even in private, right? So, like, whether or not it's happening in public, right? So you're not like the woman shouldn't just be able to come in and start disrespecting you, talking about, lowering your manhood the same way as you shouldn't be doing for her, right? Talking about her womanhood or anything like that. This is not to say that you don't get into squabbles where that may happen, where you can get disrespectful for one another. It just shouldn't be something that's accepted. Like if that happens, it needs to be checked. And hopefully, you're in a situation where you don't cross those boundaries. But when somebody feels hurt and if they feel hurt by something you did and they retaliate, that's different than that's the common practice where she can go and like just attack you like that. Then you're probably in danger of being a simp. Number three, you don't allow your woman to hang out with straight males. Like y'all can debate me on that. Like that's just crazy. You don't hang out with straight males. There's just too like if I'm trying to lose weight, I do not go and buy stuff and put it in my house, like buy junk food and put it in my house full of sugar and all that good stuff. And then I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to, you know, I'm going to be disciplined. I'm going to use willpower. No, like I'm not putting myself in a compromising position. If I don't want to be in that space, I'm not going to be in that space. And the idea that a woman can just be like, oh, that's just my straight male friend. Nah, bro. Sorry. Like that ain't cool. Number 1, 2, 3, 4. Damn, I have them in letters. And I'm calling out numbers. Okay. Okay. This is where choosing comes in, right? So if I'm talking to my son and I'm like, yo, if you're trying to get serious about a woman, the first thing that you want to be sure about is that she does not get her validation from the male gaze, right? You can look at a woman, and if she's walking, she's looking at the guys to check to see if they're looking at her. She is like, this is, I mean, women dress, especially young women, they dress sexy. They come out, they're trying to dress sexy. And there are situations where, especially if they're single, you know, they might be like, okay, I see y'all checking me out. If y'all are together, especially if you starting to get to a point where it's serious and she's still checking out, not even serious. She's supposed to, like, if she's checking out, like, am I being liked, right? Trying to get that validation from the male gaze, the sexual validation from the male gaze, you got a problem, all right? Because that's not how you should, like, that's the type of woman that's going to need that, and eventually, and not eventually, potentially, you're going to have a problem. This is not always the case, but that would be a red flag for me. You're potentially going to be a simp if you allow that and you pick that, because it's going to be very difficult to make the argument that she shouldn't do that, because she's going to have a reason for why it's acceptable. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Number 5. Okay, before I go to number 5, so this is basically 4.5, like flirting. You know, especially when you're there, like the idea of flirting with other men, like being flirtatious and being like, well, that's just me. This is what I do. If this is how you get your attention, again, you've got a problem. It's not to say that this cannot happen where these people do this and are still comfortable. It's just something that I would not risk myself, and I would not recommend anybody risk that, because you have some people, like, I forget how Lil Yachty said it, in this modern era, is basically like she doesn't get too many likes on Instagram or something like that. It's basically like somebody who's like out here looking for that type of sexual attention, like, because they need it. That's how they validate themselves, and that's you got a problem. Okay. Then number 5, you're a simp if you sacrifice your life's purpose and goals for attainment of material things for your girl or your wife. Okay. Now, in a relationship, the idea is that each person is going to be sacrificing. And so if I'm sacrificing my purpose to help you attain your purpose, that may happen for a period of time. Like, a lot of times, for example, if she's got to go to school, you may have to be like, all right, right now you're the one going to school. This happened to us. Bola was going to business school. I was out here just basically working, and then vice versa. After she got out, I went back into business school. She's out here working, sacrificing for one another's purpose is different than, I've got to go and have the bags and whatever, and you go out and you just work and you can't actually attain your purpose. If you have to sacrifice your purpose for material things, you're a simp. Number 7, is it? Yeah, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I don't know what number I said right before this, but essentially this is the last one. And so I said 7 maybe because I'm looking at G, which is what it takes to be a good man. But the last one, a simp does not. You are a simp if you sacrifice your family's financial well-being for your girl's material things. All right. If you're like, yo, I know that this is what we need to do to get to where we need to go as a family, as a man. You know, your job is to be like, no, we're not going to do that. If you sacrificing that because she's like, yo, I need to be out here in my sharp boots, whatever the fuck, you know, they the purses and all that good stuff. Problem. You probably are a simp if you're allowing that to happen. So you guys may have a whole bunch of other things, but this, from my perspective, is the way. Like, it's really the mindset that allows that to happen. And so if you aren't able to stand up to those things, you're probably simping. Now, on the last one, let's be clear, because this is where we're about to go into what it is to be a good man. On the last one, it takes for you to be a good man to provide financially. And sometimes that's like, yo, making your woman look good. And so when your woman can like stand tall in front of other women, that's because she has the financial means. Now, obviously, she can go out and start doing that herself, but when you're able to provide that, that's a good man. Now, again, what I said is sacrifice your financial well-being, the family's financial well-being, but so don't take that to mean that you should not be out here hustling or doing what it takes for you to get to that point where you can provide those things. So don't be lazy. Your job is, if you're one of those guys that believes that, your job is to go out and provide. And so part of that is providing a life that, your wife would want to be in and that you would want to provide, I would assume. So let's be clear about that. So that's number one, provide financially. A good man does not need to win arguments, and I say this because a lot of these are things that I think about for myself. Like, I'm an argumentative person. I have a wife who is also argumentative, and so we talked about this in leadership, what it takes to be a leader. I mentioned a little bit of that too. Like, when you're a leader, you don't have to try to win arguments. You're compassionate. Your end goal is to win. Not the argument, but to win as a family. A leader takes you to where you're going to go and tries to figure out how to get there. And that's your job. Not to win the argument, but to win as a family. That's what leaders do. You sacrifice in order to make that happen. And so in that sense, and this is the final one, because ultimately, if for me, being a good man is all the things that you can do for your woman in your family that isn't all the things that the 6 things that I mentioned about being a simp. If you don't do those 6 things and you are able to do everything else for your woman and your family, then you're a good man. So to that end, on the front of being a not arguing, you like, your job is not to try to change your woman. Your job is to change yourself, and that's not just because it's a good man. It's really because it's a good person. That's what everybody's supposed to do. Stop focusing on everybody else. You're like, damn, why is this person not doing what I want? Bro, your job, and sister, your job is not to be out here trying to change somebody else. Your job is to better yourself, and then watch that person learn from it, hopefully. If you've got a person who is trying, because everybody's on their own journey, and if you got a person who is seeking to grow, then that's the only thing that needs to happen. You can guide and help, but it's your, especially when it's needed or requested most of all. But if you're trying to force it, you're trying to be like, damn, I need you to be this way, problem. You should not be trying to change anybody but yourself. You're the only person you have control over. And so, and I say this because you get into situations where you're like, and I'm thinking about this for myself again, you get into situations where you're like, but I need to, I'm like, I need you to see what's happening here. And like, you get back and forth on these things. It's like, no, like, behave as you would whether or not that thing was happening. And if that person, and 9 times out of 10, 99.99% of the time, it's not important enough for you to change it. It's just something that's like, it's a preference or a need or an ego thing that you want to have happen. I mean, sometimes there are things where it's like, okay, we need to come together and compromise, in which case you have conversation and you create a rule around it. But 99.99% of the times it's like you're trying to change somebody, where all this stuff you can do on your own. Any case, that's my thing for the difference between being a simp and a good man. And so how do you be a good man that's also desirable, right? Because I think that's an important thing. Like, you can sit here and be a good man, you may not necessarily be a simp, but then you're just boring and not desirable. And so for me, once you have the mindset of not being a simp, and you're also going to be good, there are two things that I think that we need to do to be not just a good man, but a man that's attractive. And I'm not talking about physically. And most of us, like, if you go to the gym and you put yourself together, you're probably going to be decent looking and attractive enough. Okay, so how do you become attractive and not a simp? The first is you have to pick right. The person you pick is going to be one of the biggest decisions that you make in your life, bro. Like, the person you pick is like, choose wisely. That's going to have so much impact on different things that happen in your life, that is very important for you to choose wisely. And you can choose for a number of things, financial reasons, all that good stuff. But the first part is the things that I talked about with not being a simp, right? Choose wisely. Choose a person who's not going to be out in these streets and treating you like a bum. But attractive is someone who is cool. What does that mean? So I remember there was this thing that was like, they were talking about men, and they're like, I don't know where it was that I saw this, but they were like, men wanted to be him and women wanted to sleep with him or something like that. I was like, women wanted to marry him or be with him or whatever, and men wanted to be him, James Bond kind of character. And ultimately, what I believe that women are attracted to is the same thing that men are attracted to. That's why it's like men wanted to be him. And because we're attracted, like, people are attracted to a type of person. And what is that type of person? It boils down to confidence, but it's not enough. It's not precise enough. It's not complete enough to describe what it is, right? It's confidence about a perspective, a unique perspective that you have. It's when you have a perspective that you're boldly and confidently willing to express and communicate. And by communicate, I don't mean you have to go in and have conversations. You don't have to get on a podcast. You can communicate through what you wear. You can communicate through the way you behave. You can communicate through the passions that you have. Like, there could be some quiet dudes, but then, they're passionate about their music or their art or whatever. And when it comes to that conversation, they just are completely, they're completely there. And they completely can express and be this person. They're not trying to be anything else. And it's clear that that person is completely confident about that perspective that he has. And that's what everybody's looking for, right? That's why we're attracted to this type of person. This is this is why we're attracted to artists, and because it's like, this is a perspective. This is the God. Again, I'm agnostic, but, like, to use a spiritual term, because it's the one that's most fitting. It's like, if we're here made in God's image and we're supposed to be creating, this is you living in that purpose, in that perspective. When it's communicated, when others can see it, they're attracted to it. And ultimately, that's what it is. What is your perspective, right? And if you can come out and show your perspective, then, that's what's attractive. It's nothing else. Like, you can be smart and be confident about your smarts, but then you're really, you're really not necessarily, like, smart. You're like, it's just, confident is just basically like a way for you to make yourself feel better. So it's really like an insecurity. And so it's a perspective. And people are attracted to you being able to communicate boldly and confidently that perspective. And so this is why And so let me be clear, there's going to be niches, right? And like, as in everything that you do is in business, right? So that means there are groups that for which will find that more appealing than others. Um, but like for example, like if you're like the nerdy type, you probably don't want to go into St. Louis and get the sexy red type, and vice versa. If you're like the hood type, you're probably not going to be able to the odds are that you're not going to be able to go get like a sophisticated, um, you know, college urban educated woman. Maybe, maybe not. I mean, a lot of women are attracted to the excitement and the thrill, right? But I say the odds are because it still is possible for you to do that. So long as you are, what's the word? So long as you are willing to just completely be yourself. That's number one, because then that's going to create the level of respect and admiration for you being yourself, because that's attractive. Whether or not this is something that I find attractive, I will find, like I am talking about the woman. Um, the woman will find it attractive that you are confident about that and expressing your viewpoint, and then it's your willingness to express and be confident in coming after her. Right? There's a lot of times when I see in in movies or even in my own circumstances. Right? A lot of times, like a woman will put roadblocks in your way. Like if we're just talking talking like just first initial meeting, they put roadblocks in your way to see whether or not you're truly into it, and then a lot of people get thwarted, and it's like, okay, they're not going to continue to pursue. Um, but and even like when you've been together for a long time and a woman is upset with you, and like they're like, I don't want to have to do anything, whatever, and you're like, okay, you just said that, I'm fine, I'll walk away, and ultimately though, they would crumble in or be okay if you are like willing to be like, no, I'm going to fight on because this is truly what I need and so really what I want. And if you can express that, if a woman can feel that level of desire, that is something that's very appealing. So I say that to say, like, even if you're not in your niche, quote unquote, even if you're not in the, you know, you're not trying to pursue a woman who typically would be attracted to your version of your truth, your perspective that you communicate, you can still, because you are showing her that you truly want her, still get her. Um, yeah. And so that's that. So don't be a simp, be a good man. And the way you are not going to be a simp are the 6 things that I just said, which for summary's sake is, she does not disrespect you in public. You don't accept being disrespected in private. You do not, she does not, you don't allow her to, be friends with straight males and, like close friends. That is, like, you can be friends and y'all don't necessarily be hanging out all the time. She is not seeking validation from the sexual gaze of men. No flirting with or without you around. Obviously, if you're not around, you don't know what the hell is happening. When they go on their girls' trip, maybe they'll have a little fun. But ultimately, if you are like, you're an ultimate simp if she's able to flirt with you right there, from my perspective. And you don't sacrifice your purpose for material things, and you don't sacrifice your purpose um, you don't sacrifice your financial well-being for material things, but you're out here hustling to try to get to the point where you can give her these things, and everything else that you do makes you a good man. If you don't do those things, and you're an attractive man if you are um, able to express your perspective boldly and confidently. All right, hope that was helpful. If you disagree with some of these things, I can see like the flirting thing being one of those, or some people are like, this is what I do. Like I know relationships where it's like, we just sit there and banter, and and both parties know that nothing is going to happen. Um, and that's cool. And so, as with everything, these cannot be solid rules. There's no way for you to have a world where there are so many factors where there are absolutes. I am an agnostic precisely because I don't believe in absolutes. That said, that is my rule of thumb, and that's what I would argue for you and for my son if I'm giving them advice. So I'd like to hear your thoughts. What are your thoughts? Put them in the comments. All right, thanks for joining me. Until next time, next time what I want to talk about, unless something changes, because I've shifted some orders of things that I think I want to talk about. Next time what I want to talk about is why we need to stop being cool. So I just said, did I say is to be cool? Yeah, I think that's what I said. It's like black men to be cool, to be attractive. But like, I mean, like as a people, like black people are the cool race. We set trends, we set the tone, and we're done with that. We're no longer going to be cool, and I'll explain to you why next time. All right, talk soon. Bye bye.